Welcome to the Sentai podcast with your hosts Sam and Jay. We're here to discuss our favorite anime, interview industry figures, and a whole lot more. Visit sentai.com/podcast to see what we're all about. Today, we're talking about Vinland Saga.
And today, we are going into a cold land, a land we haven't been before. We are going to the land of Vikings with Vinland Saga.
I love Vinland Saga so much! I say that about every anime we discuss, but it's always true. So, I'm just going to keep saying it.
Yeah, and guests, our fans, our listeners, she's not kidding.
No, I'm not. I'm collecting the manga. I actually have this big stack of the manga, the 2-in-1 volumes that Kodansha's releasing. I have them in a stack next to me. I'm holding one up. Y'all can't see it because I'm not on camera. But I'm holding one up. It's got Thorphin on the front, in front of a Viking ship. He's dual wielding some daggers. Oh, I love this series so much. Do you want to tell people about it with a synopsis, Jay?
Oh, you want the dramatic reading of the synopsis? Okay.
I would love a dramatic reading so people who are unfamiliar with this amazing series will at least kind of know what we're talking about.
Of course. Okay, let's get this going. Raised in peace and on fanciful tales of mythical far-off land without war, young Thorfinn dreams of someday traveling to the fabled Vinland. That dream is shattered when threats from the legendary Viking put him in the path of a band of Viking mercenaries, forcing Thorfinn's father to sacrifice himself to the band's leader. Sam, give me a... Askeladd. Alone and far from home, Thorfinn joins the forces of his father's slayer, determined to compel a duel with the mercenary leader and avenge his father. However, Thorfinn quickly finds himself ill-prepared for a soldier's life in the long war between Denmark and England, where the opportunistic Vikings earn coin by fighting for both sides. Now he must learn to fight and survive, even if it means facing friends and clan in battle in Vinland Saga.
Vinland Saga, as you may have deduced from that dramatic reading, courtesy of Jay, is an anime series about Vikings. It takes place in the year 1010-ish, the year 1000-ish. And it's kind of historical, but it takes a lot of liberties. It's a very cool series, though, about Vikings. If you're at all interested in Viking culture, mythology, or history, it's well worth checking out. And even if you're not, it's just a very good, cool series that we're going to tell you about today.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of this later. It's very inspired by true life and a dramatic telling.
Yes, definitely. So why don't we talk about the manga, Jay? Do you want to start off with that?
That is your area of expertise, so...
Yes, I know. I'm setting myself up for a bit of a rant. I'm very excited about it, too.
Okay, I'll get comfortable. Here we go.
Okay, good. All right, so Vinland Saga is based on the manga of the same name by Makoto Yukimura, and it's published by Kodansha here in the States. It's ongoing with about 24 volumes at present, that those have been collected into, at present, 11 2-in-1 volumes through Kodansha. They're beautiful hardback volumes. Every one has like a kind of a different color down the spine and on the cover. So when they're set up on a shelf, it just looks really like striking and pretty. I really love the way they're publishing that, but we'll talk about that when we interview a certain someone from Kodansha, but you'll have to wait and see what that's like. Yay. 5 million copies of the manga are in print as of 2018. That is a lot of copies. It tells you just how much people enjoy and love this series. It was nominated for the 2008 Manga Taisho Award, big award there. And the story draws elements from historical accounts of the period, such as, and I'm going to go ahead and make a certain disclaimer, I do not know how to pronounce some things. I don't know how to pronounce certain words.
We're going to try our best. We are great at Japanese, but Icelandic languages?
Not so much. So the story draws elements from a trio of historical accounts of the time period, and those are the Saga of the Greenlanders, the Saga of Eric the Red, and the Flatterbok. The Flatterbok?
Let's roll with it.
So I apologize for the butchering of that pronunciation, but it is, Anyway, moving on from that. In 2009, the manga was awarded the grand prize in the manga division of the Japan Media Arts Awards. And this is a fun fact. By the time this episode airs, it's possible they already will have done this, but a special announcement is coming in the manga soon. The author is going to make an important announcement in monthly afternoon manga magazine on like July 26th. So we don't know what that announcement is now, but by the time we air this, I'm sure it will be everywhere. So I'm hoping it's like the second season or something, but we really don't know.
Yeah, man, we'll link to that news, of course, in the website. Correct, Producer Tom?
You betcha.
It's kind of an interesting deal. It's going to be a little bit like time travel, you know? Because our voices are going to be, oh, what is it? And everyone in the comments section is like, it's this. So
it's like editing magic, and it's wonderful.
Editing magic. Maybe we'll just edit all that out and have me come back in and say what that announcement is or something.
That sounds like a good idea. And it will be amazing and horrible at the same time if we ever do a live podcast recording.
Yeah. Poor producer Tom having to coordinate all these things. We are big fans of producer Tom for doing all that legwork here. So that was more on the manga series Vinland Saga. Jay, would you like to tell us more about the anime series in particular?
Okay, first off, it is gorgeous.
Yes. Thank you, Wit Studio, for the animation being as gorgeous as it is.
Wit Studio has produced the anime, and they are known for such things as Attack on Titan, After Rain, little shows.
Just little shows like Attack on Titan, nothing major.
And it was directed by Shuhei Yabuta. Shuhei. It was directed by Shuhei Yabuta, who's done a couple of other small shows: No Game, No Life, Parasite, Attack on Titan.
Just little things. Again, not too big a deal. I'm being very sarcastic in case you can't tell. Those are some very great titles. No Game, No Life in particular is a fan favorite, as we well know.
Yes. The script was also by Hiroshi Seko. Yeah. Seko. Okay, let's try that again. The script was by Hiroshi Seko, who's also worked on Attack on Titan, Ajin, Mob Psycho. So, yeah, it has a little bit of pedigree with the creators.
Mob Psycho is another personal favorite of mine, mostly thanks to the or not mostly, but in large part due to the writing. So yeah, you can imagine that the script for Vinland Saga in that case is super on point.
As an aside, if you ever want to break Sam, if you meet her at a convention, ask her what her favorite anime is.
I will go on a 25-minute rant. Everyone in the vicinity will be trying to edge away from me, and I'll just be following them as I rant about my faves. So don't even. It's a bad idea.
I think I made you mad one time because I wouldn't give you a genre or narrow it down at all.
I can't decide on what my favorite is if you just say there's too many to love. I love too many. Jay, you know this about me.
A little bit. IGN also listed Vinland Saga among the best anime of the 2010s.
Of the decade.
Yes, it also feels weird to say 2010s. What happened to 2000s, right?
Oh my God. Please don't remind me that we're in the 20s now. Please don't. Please don't. We're in the roaring 20s, and I feel like that's another historical time period that just makes me feel old.
Flapper dresses are coming back. I'm calling it now.
Oh my God, I want a zoot suit.
But back to Vinland Saga. It also won the Anime of the Year in the 6th Anime Trending Awards, which is amazing. And in a poll conducted by Kadokawa Game Linkage of the most satisfying series of 2019, Vinland Saga ranked in 9th place. Which, if you remember 2019, that's no small task.
No, definitely not.
Hey guys, it's producer Tom here. Are you doing all right?
Yes, producer Tom. What can we do for you?
I think it's time for our favorite / least favorite part of the shows is Tom Thought.
Oh God.
Yes, it is a Tom Thought, a fun fact, you might say. But
can I brace myself?
Absolutely. You might need to.
All right.
Just a thought, but maybe if one of our listeners made a Sentai podcast meme and shared it, more people would share it, and they would find out about the podcast in a clever, organic, and slightly irreverent way that would appeal to Gen Z. Just a thought.
Have you ever read anything by Richard Dawkins, Tom?
No.
I have a book for you about the origin of the word meme that I feel like will interest you.
Oh yes, please send it, and I will. I'll give you a book report later.
Okay, because I think it'll help your Gen Z meme pitch.
I also got some books on modern marketing and marketing in the digital age that would help.
That
Great.
works.
I would love to go over and explain them to you sometime. That would be great.
Well, that's a separate podcast. Tom's thoughts on modern marketing. Look forward to that coming to probably just Tom's living room. Now that we've laid the groundwork of what Vinland Saga is about, who made it, let's start with one of the most interesting things is just the historical significance of this anime, what it takes place, and the interesting time period.
Yeah, so what's so unique about Vinland Saga is that a lot of the characters are based on real people, real historical figures, or real figures from sort of like folklore, not mythology really, but kind of the like oral history of the time. There are lots of characters in the show who are composite characters, meaning that they kind of consolidate multiple historical figures into like one person, or they're kind of an embellishment of that historical figure. So it's not like a one-to-one historical adaptation. This is definitely highly fictionalized history. But the neat thing about Vinland Saga is, like characters like Leif Erikson show up in this anime. That's probably the most...
Very early on.
Yeah, he's probably the most well-known figure, at least to like other fellow Americans. He's probably the most well-known. But yeah, it's really interesting to watch, and you hear these names, and you're like, I've heard that name, and it recalls high school European history class.
Yes, and the story begins in the Danish-controlled England, which is early 11th century, and features the Danish invaders of England, which we call the Vikings.
Right. Yeah. Vikings are from the area of the world that's like Scandinavia, Netherlands. So that whole Norway, Finland, blah,
the
blah,
cold
blah.
places.
Yes, all those. I actually pulled up just the Wikipedia on, so it's present day Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. So southern Scandinavia, if we want to get really specific there. I have the Vikings wiki pulled up so I can pull historical facts as we talk. I'm very thorough.
Didn't you already say this?
Yeah, as we said earlier, the Vinland Saga draws elements from historical accounts of the period, such as the Flateyjarbók, the Saga of the Greenlanders, and the Saga of Eric the Red. But what's interesting, I mentioned those names earlier, but what I didn't say is that the latter two, aka the Saga of the Greenlanders and the Saga of Eric the Red, are collectively known as the Vinland Saga. And that's where the anime series and the manga series gets its name, is from the collective name of these two works. And these two works, Saga of Eric the Red and the Saga of the Greenlanders, describe the Norse colonization of the Americas. And we mentioned Leif Erikson earlier. Saga of Eric the Red. Leif Erikson is actually the son of that Eric from that work. So Erikson, son of Eric, etc. And the Vinland Sagas actually represent the most complete information we have about the Norse exploration of the Americas of the time. Though Iceland didn't really have an oral tradition, so these works can't really be deemed a completely historically accurate account of the time period, and they actually have some contradictory details. But historians believe that you can kind of piece together a realistic timeline from these two works by comparing what they contain. And to that note, they contain substantial evidence of Viking exploration in North America through descriptions of the topography, natural resources, and native culture. So yeah, I like history. I think this is all really fascinating. Actually, it made me watching this anime really made.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, watching this anime really made me want to learn more about the history it pulls from.
Yeah, and it leads into a much bigger and volumes of books that we don't really know what kind of happened, names of people, because this is oral history. Written history is very, very new. Well, not new, but in the scale of human being around, it is new. Let's write down what we did today.
Right. That's why actually diaries are such a big deal to anthropologists. Did y'all know that? That diaries are so important. And so if they manage to uncover someone's diary of just here's what I ate today, it sounds really mundane, but it's super important because from small details about a person's daily life, you can pull kind of larger inferences about the culture and the time period. When COVID first started, I kept a diary for a while of what my life was like, because I was like, someday an anthropologist is going to find this and they're going to be like, this is helpful in piecing together what the weirdness of 2020 was like.
I think every anthropologist's dream is just like, I want to know what the daily life was for X person in X time period.
Average citizen, yeah. Honestly, though, Facebook is going to be an anthropologist's, playground in a couple hundred
everything
years.
on Facebook's 100% true.
Yeah, but that's kind of neat that you could compare someone's like private message history to what they put on the actual on their timeline. And you could probably get an interesting this person really was putting on putting up an artificial, persona in public, but then in private we see through their text message history that they were actually miserable or something. Social media, anthropology goldmine.
Yes. And leading into that, and because I think
Back
both
to
me
Vinland
and
Saga.
Sam got very into, learning everything we could about Vinland Saga, Vikings, and time period. One of the first questions that I asked Sam was, what is Vinland? And I think she has a much condensed version of what she told me.
Yeah, so Vinland, or Vineland, was an area of the coastal North America explored by the Vikings. The name Vinland actually means wine land of wine. It's attributed to the discovery of grapevines upon the arrival of Leif Erikson in North America. They may have been gooseberry vines, interestingly enough, because in the spot where they're said to have landed, there aren't any grapes. There's just those are in a different area than... Anyway, there's kind of some historical argument to be made about the exact spot they landed in North America, though most people agree it was probably Newfoundland on the Gulf of St. Lawrence, or areas as far northeastern as New Brunswick, actually, because there actually are grapes there. Anyway, the point being, Leif Erikson first landed on the North American continent around the year 1000 CE, nearly 5 centuries before the voyages of Christopher Columbus. So Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492 and discovered America. Not accurate. Leif was there first. Whenever they refer to Vinland in the show, in the prologue especially, and Jay, when you gave that summary earlier, hinted at this, young Thorfinn is raised on tales of this magical place called Vinland, where it's warm and there's no war. And so they were really talking about North America, away from all the fighting Europeans. It's neat to think that this sort of mystical place is actually not too far from where you, I, and Tom happen to live. I mean, thousands of miles north of us, but still.
Yes, for those who don't know, it's very hot now, but Texas, and we're all kind of sweating. It's great.
Oh, God, I wish I was in Denmark right now, the land of where it's cooler.
Yeah.
Gazing wistfully into the distance. Yeah.
Bless AC, though. Just bless AC.
Houston is actually the most air-conditioned city in the world, or it was at one point.
Now, Tom, that is a good Tom fact. That is the level that we expect.
Get on my level, producer Tom, with the weird facts.
No, that's a good fun fact. I've trained you well.
Yeah, you have. Thank you, producer Tom. I'm definitely
inspiring Sam to, find actual fun facts.
Yeah. No,
You're
Tom
welcome.
definitely was the impetus for finding that fun fact. Thank you, producer Tom. So go on.
So now that we've, this is the area, this is the time, I think it is worth talking about the actual main characters and who inspired them, because it's difficult to say they are this character because non-written history and everything. Mm-hmm. But, they are inspired by more or less one character most of the time.
Yeah. So the protagonist of Vinland Saga is young Thorfinn, and he is based on Thorfinn Karlsefni. I probably butchered that, but that Thorfinn was an Icelandic explorer who around the year 1010 followed Leif Erikson's route to Vinland in a short-lived attempt to establish a permanent settlement there with his wife Gudrid and their followers. His expeditions are documented in something called the Saga of the Greenlanders, which, again, is one of the books Vinland Saga draws a lot of its material from.
Askeladd.
Askeladd.
Askeladd shares the name Askeladdin, a Norwegian folk character known for his cleverness. His backstory is based on the early life of Olaf the Peacock, an Icelandic chieftain with a major character of
Laxdala Saga.
That is what we call a lifeline.
I'd like to phone a friend, please. If you understand
Also,
that reference, you're probably my age anyway.
Olaf the Peacock. A+ name.
That's a great name. I didn't actually look much into Olaf the Peacock when I was researching for this episode, but this is what we were talking about when we said earlier it was like they're composite characters. So the Askeladd in Vinland Saga is based on a folk character as well as two different folk characters, basically. So it's clear that the author of this, so Makoto Yukimura, did a lot of research in order to craft his characters.
And what pleased me a lot is, first episode we meet Leif Erikson, which is probably the most well-known Viking, at least around us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is a whole podcast upon itself. But, first to discover Americas, besides the Americans already living there. Right,
yeah. The first European to discover the Americas. Because, as we should probably state for the record, the Americas were very heavily populated by indigenous tribes at the time. And some allusions are actually made to those tribes, though not by name, in Vinland Saga, the anime, which I was grateful for. I'm glad they weren't just like, it was an empty place. I'm like, nope, it was not. It's richly populated. Anywho, that's another subject. So Vinland Saga itself, the anime, is kind of based around the rise of the King Canute the Great, who's the most prominent Danish ruler of England. And he, as a character, is featured throughout the show as well. So it's going to deal a lot with how he comes to power.
Right. And this leads us This leads us wonderfully into why we think you should watch Vinland Saga. And I will let Sam do Sam's rant about the history.
Yeah, so there's an argument to be made that all the history I just listed off is really dry, that it's not very interesting, that, there are all these names that Sam can't pronounce very well. Why should I care about all these impronounceable names? Why should I care about the Danish rulers of England? Why should I care about any of this? The thing is, though, is that while Vinland Saga itself is not like 100% historically accurate, you're not going to watch it and be able to give like a book report on the history of that time period. What it does is it sparks your interest in that history. And a lot of the time, that's what historical fiction is meant to do. It's not meant to do like a perfect education on a historical subject. It's meant to just pique your interest so that you go and you do more research on your own later. So I think Vinland Saga is a wonderful tool for if you are at all interested in Vikings or history, if you are at all interested in this subject matter, this is a great springboard for piquing your interest, whetting your appetite for historical data, and making you want to go learn more. Few historical dramas, I gotta say for the record, are ever perfectly accurate. Like they consolidate characters, use composite characters. That is a completely normal part of crafting historical fiction, or even crafting like nonfiction and memoir. You still like the goal of this is to tell an effective story first and foremost. And sometimes you have to sacrifice some historical details for it. So just as like a disclaimer to anyone who's interested in the show, again, you're not going to be able to craft like a perfect book report on this time period, but you are probably going to come away from it with a deeper love of this time period, a piqued interest in this time period, and just the hunger to know more.
Right. And that leads into, it is impossible to make 100% historically accurate telling unless it's in the last 70 years.
Yeah.
Because empires come, they rise, they fall, and history is written by the winners. So we really don't know a lot of history. And it is really amazing that we talked about all this character and, setting of Vinland Saga, and we haven't even touched upon one of the key aspects. It is action-packed and it will keep you engaged.
Right, yeah, like we're over here listing all of these like names of Vikings and stuff, and we haven't even touched upon yet like why we love the show as much as we do. Again, really cool history. But if you're just an anime fan and you're sitting here like, oh my God, oh, sorry, someone is calling me. I'm going to hang up because I don't know that number. Yeah, if you are at all an anime fan and you're sitting there going, I don't know why I should watch this. Why should I watch this right now? Like, it sounds really boring. Why are you talking about these historical kings and fight? Like, I don't get it. You don't understand. This show is action-packed. It's bloody. It's intriguing. It's got politics. It's got fights. It's got everything like action-loving anime fans could love. So even if you're sitting there like, I'm not interested in history, Sam, I don't care about the rise of King Canute. I don't care about any of this. I don't care who Leif Erikson is. I'm here to tell you, you'll still like this anime a hell of a lot.
You can watch this completely not knowing anything about it and not caring about the history and just enjoy this story.
Right. Like the character work and the writing, just on a purely human level, is beautiful.
And if that wasn't a, 1-2 punch enough, it's pretty. It's beautiful. It is engaging.
Yeah, the animation itself just draws you right in. It's beautifully, lushly animated. And we mentioned a second ago, like the characters, they're all very distinct in appearance. You can tell them apart at first glance, which character design is like so important in an anime series. This has beautiful character design. But one of the things I really love about it most is how universal the themes are, how universal the characters' emotions are. Like, you don't have to be interested in Vikings to understand Thorfinn's lust for revenge. You don't have to understand Viking culture to get his, like, why his father emphasizes honor. You don't have to know a lot of stuff. There's no prerequisites coming into this anime series. It's neat if you know some history, but it's still a wonderful experience right from the get-go.
There are many hooks that can grab you.
Yeah.
We both were like, history, yay.
Yeah.
And deep dived, really deep dive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just who we are as people.
There's also the character work, the story itself, the action, and on a different level, and this is what probably me and Sam have the longest conversation about, is the uniqueness of this anime.
Yeah. So for me, one of the most unique things about Vinland Saga as a manga and an anime series is that it's such a fascinating example of cultural exchange. Like, it is such a neat concept because you have this guy in Japan decides, I want to write an anime series, or not an anime series, a manga series about Vikings. So you have Japan and Denmark, opposite sides of the world already. And then you have us here in America taking it, in Vinland, actually, almost, taking it, now we're dubbing it in English. And so you have this like triple chain of locations involved in the production of this anime series. It's so interesting to me that like the Viking culture draws interest from all the people from completely different walks of life, completely different areas of the world. And that is fascinating. It shows how a good story can transcend culture. Strong characters can ensnare anyone's imagination. And just, yeah, like I just find that so fascinating.
It is very refreshing as well. I'm watching Vikings the anime. It is not, the 15th or 100th, retelling of a samurai something, which, don't get me wrong, I love, and I watch every one of them. Or
Right.
Sam's pretty boys or pretty girls or pretty everything, pretty gems.
Pretty people. Pretty people of all genders are. Ooh, yeah. Give me an alien with long hair. I'm happy. There's a moment of silence from producer Tom and Jay. They're like, "Wow, that was too much information." But you know what I mean. Like, it's not. It's not your 19,000th isekai of the season.
Yeah, it's just unique and refreshing and draws you in so many different levels. I know we're gushing about it, but it deserves it and more.
It really does. So one thing that I noted to Jay yesterday was that few other anime really seem to tackle a foreign culture the way Vinland Saga does. Like, I can think of a couple off the top of my head that are set in places other than Japan, but it's fairly rare that an anime series is set somewhere other than Japan that isn't like a fantasy universe. So I could think of, there are two manga series by Kaoru Mori, Emma and Otoyo Megatari, which is also called Bride Story in English. And those are set in England and Mongolia. And she goes very deep into, the cultures of those places. And then I was able to find some more after Jay and I talked, because I was like, there's got to be more than that. 91 Days is set during 1920s America during Prohibition. Banana Fish is set in America. Apare Ranman is set in America, but it has a Japanese protagonist. I did think of Arslan Senki. That actually explores some Persian history, but again, it brings like fantasy elements into it. And some of the other things I mentioned don't really get into like the cultures of the places where they're set. They're more used as like an interesting setting. But Vikings, Vinland Saga really does get into like the history of the place of where it's set. And that is so unique.
You will learn things in Vinland Saga. And the one that came to mind right now, as we're talking about, and it's still based in Tokyo, but Beck is very much about American blues and American music and, the mythical guitar that is Lucille. But it's hard for me to think of another show that is historically based outside of Japan, not in a fantasy. And that's unique. And I know now that we're saying that out loud in this podcast, we're going to get a ton of tweets about it.
Yeah, and I did manage to find a couple, but again, like most of them have like fantasy elements or still have like a Japanese protagonist. But like Vinland Saga is completely removed from Japan and like Japanese culture, which is it's quite unique in that sense.
The other uniqueness, and this has been a newer trend in anime, but it very much draws in the action element of like grim, stark realism and the grittiness. You see the pain of losing someone's father and the horrors of battle, of just fighting.
It's the reality of war. I mean, Vinland Saga really does get into the reality of war, what it does to a nation, what it does to people. The
what
way
it does to the average person, not just the soldiers.
The way it can corrupt somebody. One thing that I was thinking about last night, actually, is that Thorphin as a protagonist, he isn't at all your standard likable protagonist. Like, he makes choices that you disagree with. He does things that you're like, oh, honey, no. He isn't I'm going to be, I'm going to save the world. I'm going to do this thing. He doesn't have that element to him necessarily. He's a very human character. He's not just an archetype, which I think gets to what you're talking about. Like, real people are not character archetypes. Real people are complicated. And the character work in this show reflects that.
Yeah, it's also rare to see the antagonist, the person that Thorfinn wants to kill, literally, is also his teacher.
Right. It's so true. Like that's a very interesting take and angle. But yeah, like relationships are not clear cut in real life. Relationships can be complicated. So just like you were saying, Jay, that's a really realistic element to this story.
And I think it's that time that Tom is looking at us that he has a thought.
Yeah, speaking of wanting to kill your teacher, I have a fun fact for you.
Do you?
I do. Vinland Saga is available to order right now at Sentai.com, and the Blu-ray includes the sub and the dub. New dub.
What?
New English dub.
Sam, do you get that train of thought? Because I got nothing.
What does that have to do with killing your teacher? Tom, what mysterious motivations do you have that I don't know about that connects these seemingly disparate ideas?
Well, someday an anthropologist will figure out the connection. And...
God damn it. I don't think I'm allowed to curse on this podcast, but... Lord. Okay. All right. Well...
Thanks, Tom. After me and Sam going into deep, like, what Vinland and how and amazing, you just broke both of us.
Yeah, I'm broken. I know what I'm going to be talking about at the water cooler for the next month and a half. Tom apparently wants to murder a teacher of some kind, but I don't know what.
No,
okay.
it just makes me think of buying Blu-rays at Sentai.com.
We can't teach Tom anything, either of us, right?
I'm sorry, Jay. I was too distracted by Tom Tom's Blu-ray chatter. What?
We can't teach Tom anything. We can't put ourselves in that role.
No, we can't. Right. Do you want to talk about just titles that are similar to Vinland Saga, that if people want something else that's Vinland Saga-esque, or if they're like, oh, maybe would I like Vinland Saga? Well, maybe if you like some of these, you would. Do you want to go over something like that?
Yeah, and since Tom talked about killing, Akame ga Kill,
Wonderful transition there.
Yeah, that's a transition, Tom.
Oh my God.
Akame ga Kill has wonderful politics. It has action. It has grittiness. It will make you feel things, say things, think things. Yeah.
Man, though, the character Esdeath from Akame ga Kill is definitely my waifu.
Yeah, I was gonna say long hair and pretty.
Love her. So if you want also very homicidal pretty girls, that's one to check out. Anyway, speaking of homicidal pretty girls, wow, our transitions today are interesting. Another one that I think that if you like this, you'll like Vinland Saga is actually Danmachi, or the Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon franchise, because it has that sort of medieval-esque setting. Again, it's in a fantasy universe, not in a real universe, but it has action, it has some political intrigue, and it has that medieval-esque setting that I think, people, if you're into Vinland Saga, you'd probably like it too. It does have more fan service, but then again, that just may sweeten the pot for some people.
And let us not forget to mention that Hestia is the Bestia.
Of course, we cannot speak of Danmachi and not say Hestia is Bestia. It's actually written into the rules of our employment. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not. I'm kidding.
And one
or am I?
Y'all are breaking me today.
We're having a good time, Jay. I'm just vibing.
I don't know this vibe and I don't like it. Another title that would be amazing that I think will draw you in would be Ushio and Torah, which I know, Sam, is one of the few anime you haven't watched.
It's one of those ones that's been on my list for literally since before I started working for Sentai. And it is still on my list. And for some reason, I guess we get a lot of new titles and then I watch those and then Ushio gets pushed back. So why do you think it would interest fans of Vinland Saga?
So it's action packed and it will draw you in and you will care about it. It also, after you watch Vinland Saga, you might want something with a little bit more comedy to, liven you up.
A palate cleanser.
I'll just say cheeseburgers.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
After you watch it, you will get it, and you'll probably hate me for that.
You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention. All right.
And also, because we haven't mentioned it somehow this far into the podcast, they both have banger openings.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Vinland Saga OP at all, did we?
No.
Oh my God. Okay. Vinland Saga's opening, by the way, is like metal. It's like finished metal, and it's so good. Just for the record there, throwing that out. It's actually kind of similar to Akame ga Kill's opening, now that I think about it.
Similar vibes, yes.
Yeah.
And I was told by Sam I'm not allowed to talk during these next two animes, and she has two more because Sam said so.
I added this one to the list myself, and I was proud of my association. I think fans of Berserk would probably really like Vinland Saga and vice versa. If you've read Berserk at all, there's characters named Gambino and Guts, and their relationship reminds me of Thorfinn and Askeladd. And of course, while we're here, rest in peace to Kentaro Miura, who passed away at the time of this recording rather recently. A major loss for the anime world.
Very, and I know we were both very quiet those days, and
yeah,
it has inspired me to rewatch Berserk, which is always a great thing.
Yeah. It's just... Well, I'm going to make myself cry if I think about it for too long. So another one is probably Demon Slayer. That one, really popular right now, but it has the action element that Vinland Saga does. It's set sort of during it's got fantasy elements, obviously. It has the word demon in the title, but it is set during a sort of antiquated period of Japanese history. So you get that sort of immersed in another place and time feeling, as well as the action. So that's another one you could look to for a similar title.
Tom, it's your turn.
Here's another fun fact.
Oh, no.
Mark your calendars for October 9th. when you can all wish each other a happy Leif Erikson Day.
Oh,
That was fun.
that was a nice little fun fact, Tom, and it wasn't about killing teachers.
No, see, it's you guys need to get on board with these fun facts. I've still got a lot to teach you.
Okay.
You know, Sam, Tom's last fun fact of the show is always on point.
Wait. He just said he had stuff to teach us, and then he said something about, speaking of killing teachers, Tom, this isn't a student defeats the master situation, is it? Because I can't do that to you. You're too fun. I like you too much as a producer.
Well, thank you. I think you were the one that pieced that together, not me. So.
Oh God. Okay, so it's just
Sam will always find bridges.
Oh, it's a reflection on my mindset, not yours. Oh no. Okay, well, we're gonna move on from that because I've just depressed myself again. Oh, okay. I do want to ask before we start winding down this episode, though, because we always do similar titles near the end. But I did want to ask you, Jay, what do you think your favorite part of Vinland Saga is? Like your personal favorite. I want your personal feelings.
Way to put me on the spot, Sam.
Yeah, I did it on purpose.
I think Vinland Saga handled a time jump better than most of that I have ever seen. I know that is very meta, but I've been an anime fan a long time.
Right. And you think it handled the time jump? Because we're not going to do too many spoilers right now, but there is a time jump, a time skip, and you think that it handled that especially well. I didn't expect you to say that, but I love that, and I agree. I think it handled it very well indeed.
With my meta favorite part, Sam, what is yours?
It's actually very similar. I love the way that there is a prologue that is distinct from the bulk of the rest of the series. And it's a very long prologue, 6 or 7 episodes, sort of before the time skip you referenced. But I loved that they spent time in Thorfin's youth and childhood, really establishing what that was like, establishing what the setting is like.
Where he comes from, motivations.
Because you can, by so establishing where he came from, it gives greater weight to where he ends up in the end. And so I think from a storytelling perspective, the long time spent in the prologue in Thorfin's youth is very effective. And I get the feeling some anime fans want stuff to move very fast and they want really quick action. But I think my favorite part of the entire story were those moments that we spent in his childhood because the contrast to later events gives them so much greater weight.
Well said. And I think it leads up to saying that something that we didn't mention earlier. Vinland is very satisfying.
It is. If you've read the manga, and I don't think you have, I think I'm the only manga reader in this place. I'm the resident manga hoarder. Half my house is full of manga. This, season 1 of Vinland Saga is a self-contained story in and of itself. It does have a beginning, middle, and end. It has a story arc that is complete. However, it's the prologue to the rest of the series in a very real way. And if you keep reading in the manga from the point the anime leaves off, you'll get what I mean. All of this is really establishing who Thorfinn is as a person. And
prologue has a prologue.
The prologue has a prologue. Yeah, you aren't wrong. Inception, we need to go deeper.
What if this was a prologue?
It's all a prologue to the rest of history, really.
And that is a prologue, we also have more episodes about Vinland coming up. We
do. They're like the sequel epilogue.
And actually, we have a very, very special on this, story arc for this anime. We have 4 episodes, actually.
Oh, we do?
We have interviews with both Shannon Emmerich and Mike Hamoto, as well as I made Sam very happy because we will be talking with someone from Kodansha USA.
Yay! I get to talk with a manga fan about manga. I'm so happy.
That was pretty much the reaction the first time too.
Every time I think about that upcoming interview, I get very excited and I'm very happy about it. Like, I'm so excited. I know it's like, okay, how many octaves can my voice raise? But the answer is another few.
I want to keep going, but I'm scared.
No.
It did go up.
I can blow out a speaker if I try, but yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hosting the Shannon Emmerich interview, and she, of course, plays young Thorphin in the prologue I just mentioned, and then Mike Himoto plays Thorphin in the rest of the series. And yeah, it's quite a fun set of interviews. I'm looking forward to y'all hearing them.
And with that, we will bid everyone adieu. As always, please follow us on social and let us know your thoughts of Vinland Saga and reactions, and just, it's so much to talk about.
Send me pictures of your manga shelves if you collect it. Like if your Vinland Saga series, I mean, specifically. We can...
No, Sam meant all your manga.
That too.
Sam does not discriminate against manga.
Nope, I love manga so much. Thank you everybody for joining in on this episode where we did a deep dive into Vinland Saga, and I hope you join us for the rest of the episodes, which are interviews with, of course, Shannon Emmerich, Mike Himoto, and a representative from Kodansha USA. So yeah. All right, thank you for joining us, everybody. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Sentai Podcast. This episode was brought to you by High Dive, where you can stream thousands of hours of anime for $4.99 a month, and your first 30 days are free. Thanks to our hosts Sam Butler and Jay Perez, our producer Tom Helberg, and our editor Connor Clifton. Thanks for tuning in.